right. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter NG, and welcome back to Catching Up, the podcast where conversations don't end when the bell rings. If you're new here, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Catching Up Podcast, clips, updates, and behind the scenes content. Today, I'm reconnecting with Brianna Jacob, who's now in a work from home. So I'm very interested to hear more about that and how that differentiates from other nursing fields. I remember you distinctly from your authenticity, and also I feel like your maturity. You were definitely um, older for your time, I guess might be the right word to use, back in high school. And I remember a lot of our conversations, and it was nice to talk to somebody who kind of felt like you had your stuff going on. You know, you felt like you were pretty in control of things from my memory. Um, every teenager obviously has things that they're dealing with, but I'm super excited to get this chance to get to talk to you more. So, Brianna, how have you been?
I've been really good, honestly. How have you been?
I've been doing well. Thanks for asking. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
of course.
the podcast has been a really fun experience for me just to try something new and push myself in a different boundary that I haven't really tried before. So this has been a really fun thing for me to learn and find an avenue, I guess, to talk and just converse with people. For the people listening at home, how do we know each other?
So you were my anatomy and physiology teacher my junior year of high school.
So, based on your form, you graduated in 2018, and we
Yes.
talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but you're now the oldest student I've taught or past student that I've taught. Um, so, you took my class in 2017.
Yes, like 2016, 2017. Yeah, but I was
Okay,
also in your class my senior year too because I was
that's
one of
right.
your assistants in my senior year. So I
Student
was with you
assist.
for two.
I think you were the last and only one who could do that. I've had
Really?
students since you who asked to do that, and I always tell them, I'm fine with it. It's not my call. There's a system and process that they go through that. Um, Now they don't really like that. They prefer it that if you're a student assist of some sort, you're only in the media center helping out the media center, and they do help a lot. But yeah, you're not allowed to just be sitting in a teacher's room unless you're like in pit crew.
That's
Um,
actually what it was.
oh,
Yeah, it was pit crew. I just, because it was you, I kind of just had a little bit of special privileges.
okay, okay. Well, listen. Um, I think you were also no. I think I maybe had one or two more pit crew kids after you. You were the last pit crew kid who a actually helped me out, and b wasn't like causing more disturbance, which is a sad thing to say. But I've
Yeah,
had other pit crew students that I understand it's for good reason. It's to help students who need assistance.
absolutely.
But I don't actually see them trying with the kid. And I get it. It's not an easy thing to like push sometimes and be like, hey, let's work on this. Let's try tackling this. Teachers have to learn that skill themselves anyway. But yeah, I've had a couple kids actually that I had to be like, look, if you're not going to do anything in here,
Get
this
out.
isn't worthwhile. Yeah,
just get
yeah,
out.
truly. So it is what it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, your class, man. So back then, you guys were in the triangles, right? Like groups of three.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So you guys were in the triangles. You were in my old classroom. So I didn't move too far. I moved one class down
Okay.
back when I was teaching with the Blackwells. When they retired, I thankfully got the opportunity to move into Miss Blackwell's room. And she has a much larger room. She has a bathroom in her room, which is very
That's
convenient.
nice.
A bit of a bit of an upgrade, I guess. You know, I became the senior in my PLC or in my department for anatomy physiology. So I guess that's kind of what comes with the perks.
Yeah, right? You get the fancy
um,
classroom to go along with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's interesting because you never saw the couch, right?
No. You
Oh
had a
man, yeah,
couch?
your class is truly a relic of like the older version of my class,
You
which
see,
is so
with our
fascinating.
class, crazy enough, we were the ones when you had just started making the little coffees on the Bunsen burner.
Oh
We were the
man,
first class.
that was a great experience too. I remember kids walking in mid lecture because I told them I'm fine with that, like it's not a big deal. But they'd come in, especially during B lunch, and I'm teaching during fifth period. or during a lunch, and I'm teaching during fifth period, and they would say like, "Hey, can I have some coffee?" And I would just be prepping as I'm lecturing. Wow. That hasn't happened in a while. I also have like a little Brita thing now, or not a Brita, a little the one with the pods that you can put in.
Like a little
Uh,
like oh god, Keurig.
Keurig, there you
Yeah.
go. I have a little
Hmm.
Keurig, and I had some kids actually a couple years ago that would use it and bring their own K cups. But yeah, gone are the days of me using a little percolator or a cafetera and just burning it on the Bunsen
I
burner.
remember too. You had a
Um,
little cinnamon in there,
I
nutmeg. You would make
did,
it
yeah,
fancy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm trying to make it a nice experience. Like to give you the full background, I added. I think it was the year after you graduated. I applied for a loan, not a loan. I applied for a grant that was being offered at our school, and I won the grant. And I was able to use that money to kind of spruce up the classroom. I saw a trend that has gained a lot of traction. Unfortunately, I still believe in stuff like this, but more and more with education kind of getting stripped apart across the country, um, you don't really see budget for stuff like this. But the premise was it was called flexible seating, and you don't have to get super fancy with it. But the idea that I saw in other teachers' classrooms across the country is you just design your room to be almost like a coffee shop, I guess, and just like make it comfortable. Because if a student feels comfortable, they're willing to lower their guard and learn and truly feel like they want to be there. Um, I think I had kids like yourself who did want to be there even before I had a couch or anything fancy, but I was more than willing to say, let's try it. And so I got a couch. It wasn't the most comfortable thing, but I had a couch for a couple years. I had some lawn chairs. I had some bar stools. I even had some standing desks that were like further in the back. And we still had a lot of normal desks because I understood that like the average student is still going to want a standard seating arrangement.
Right.
The long story short, because I've teased this in a couple other episodes with other kids who remember the couch fondly, is I had to make sure before I bought anything that the materials were flame retardant to prevent any sort of ignition if a fire were to go off. And I
Right.
went through every checklist possible to confirm like this is the right stuff because I'm not only using my grant money for this but my own money to buy other stuff.
Yeah.
One day, years later, a new fire inspector came during winter break, saw the stuff in my room, immediately asked, "What is all this?" Understandable. And unfortunately, my admin didn't just say, "Hey, it's all good. All of this is cleared," and they just removed it all.
Oh my god.
And I it was all moved into a new like into like a teacher lounge or something. And I was I was really annoyed, obviously, and I was like, I kind of wanted to say, what can I get? How can I get this stuff back? But I was just like, this isn't a battle worth fighting. It was
Yeah.
already a pain having to go through all those hoops in the first place. But I'm glad I had a couple classes of students who got to experience that.
Yeah, and it seems like had a lot of good memories from it too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was new. It was not only new, but I had so many teachers and admin, and I think admin were getting a little pissed at this. Truth be told, I had so many teachers ask me, I didn't know we're allowed to do that. And I'm like, yeah, as long as it's the right material. It's not like one of those leather couches or anything super expensive. It was from IKEA.
Okay.
It was just bare bones enough. It was a metal frame. It had like a tiny little thin cushioning that you could take off of it. It was just bare bones enough that would pass all the checks and also not super expensive. Um, but I had all these other teachers that were like, I love that. I want to do something like that in my class. And I'm like, go for it. That's how I started. But unfortunately, that's all gone. And I've been using desks ever since. It is what it
Yeah.
is. But it's kind of interesting the design of my classroom. I wish I've taken photos most years, but I wish I had photos of how my classroom looked every year. Because some years it's just the same, and then
Yeah.
other years I kind of make a decision to say we need something new.
Yeah.
Um, and I really liked the design I had for you guys. It was the little triangles, and it was really. I felt like it was really cooperative. Do you feel like it was that way
I
for you?
was. I mean, I still am pretty good friends with the classmates that I was sitting with in your
Oh,
class.
that's
So like
perfect.
that
Awesome.
triangle formed like a really good relationship with the people that I sat next to. So and it's lasted, like we still check in with each other from time to time throughout the years. So I really liked it. And I mean my table, we were very productive together. We got our stuff
Right.
done and good friendships overall.
Good. Good. Yeah, that's the big positive. I think the only sometime negative is like some tables got a little too friendly or a little too social, and I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach
Which
here.
is bound to happen.
um,
You're like, okay guys, back to the front.
yeah, yeah, but I don't mind that. As I've said before, I would rather some kids who are a little too social or too talkative or class clown or whatever than dead silence.
Yeah.
Um, that truly is like the most draining thing as a teacher, I think,
Hmm.
when you just have nothing connecting and you feel like you're forcing everything out of a kid. And it's sad because it makes you feel as a teacher that you're not doing your job effectively,
Yeah.
but you also just feel like, man, school and being a teenager in general and being a kid, I get it. There's a lot of things you have to do where you're like, this sucks, or this feels mundane, or this is busy work. But when you find those interesting moments, you're supposed to kind of like follow that and follow that intuition and say like, wow, that's really cool. I love this. This is interesting. Ask
Absolutely.
questions. Instead, it's felt so often to kids where it's just like looking at the clock waiting for the next period.
Yeah, and I feel like with your classroom specifically, and I know a lot of your students will probably say the same, but it's like I think so many people liked being in your classroom so much because it felt like that break from all the things that we didn't want to do. Like we just I know for me especially, like I used to go in there and just be like I would have lunch in your classroom because I just felt
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
was like a safe space in there too. Like it was just you go in there, you're excited about what you're going to be learning, you're excited to just ask the questions and just be
Hmm.
like in a welcomed open environment where you're able to just kind of be you and enjoy what you're learning at the same time.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
I don't expect every student to be like yourself that goes into a health profession, but I hope that anyone who's in there doesn't feel like it's an agonizing 50 minutes.
Right.
And that's what I try to aim for. Speaking of, I guess, thinking back to that time, is there any moment from my class or high school, doesn't have to be my class, that stands out to you?
Funny enough, when I think about it, like the moment that always comes back to me is I remember when you first came to me when you met Julia for the first time.
Oh man, she's
You
gonna love to
literally,
hear this one.
yes, you literally. I remember coming into school and you
uh,
were looking at me. You're like, so I met someone. I'm like, what? And then
yeah,
that was it.
yeah, truly, you know, it's kind of wild thinking about this now in my 30s, because back then I was probably what, like 25, 26.
I think you were, yeah, 26.
um it is kind of crazy. I've had students since you that I definitely feel comfortable talking about my personal life stuff, and I don't feel like, oh, it's inappropriate conversation or anything. But it's not as often, I feel like, than in my early days of education, where I don't know, it feels like I kind of struck gold with you, where you achieved all the things that I was looking for as far as a
Yeah.
student, but I could also chat with you and it felt like natural talking to you. And it's nice as a teacher. And this is why I like talking with or teaching high schoolers more so often, because teenagers often get downplayed as you guys don't know anything. And yes, there's a lot of growth left, but I also think you guys have gone through quite a lot already. And having those conversations sometimes is a good opportunity to say, like, hey, here's what I did, and here's how you can try to avoid that in your future. Or like, what's going on in your life, or here's what's going on in my life. And just it humanizes everything a little bit more.
Absolutely.
But that's so funny. Wow. I was just thinking about that kind of recently, about like, what class was I teaching? Like, what year was I teaching when Julia and I first met?
Yep, that was
That's
it.
great.
That was it.
That's great.
It was me
Okay.
and Natalie.
Okay.
We were sitting there and we were like, "What? Give us the tea! Like, what's going on?"
Oh man, that's so funny. I'll have
Yeah,
to see if Natalie can get on here too, because she was also from that same year, right? You guys were in the same
yeah.
class.
She was. She sat at my
Oh,
table.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Got you. Before we continue down memory lane, I'm very interested about your current profession. So you said that you are a work from home nurse.
Yes.
So walk us through that. You went to UCF, right? And
Yes. So I actually ended up going to, I did all my prereqs at UCF. I ended up going to a private nursing school. And while I was in nursing school, I was working at Nemours, which is a children's hospital. I was working as a tech in the ICU. And I was there for a little over 2 years. Made a lot of good memories, saw a lot of disturbing things
mm,
working there. You never really
I'm
expect
sure.
what you're going to walk into working with kids. And I always thought all my life that that's what I wanted to do. Learned pretty quickly that I didn't know if I could do that or not. But fast forward after that, I graduated and I ended up moving to El Paso, Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I am now. And it's just been a huge adjustment for me,
Mm-hmm.
especially moving out here. I didn't really know the area very well. I didn't have any friends or anybody that I knew when I moved here. Um, and it was more so just kind of looking for a quick job.
Yeah.
So I found this job that I'm currently at, and it's very different from bedside. It's very different
Mm,
from, you see a patient and you talk to them and it's like in and out and you give them meds, give them whatever you need, and that's it. It's more
mhm.
like you are really building your relationships with your patients. So what I do is I have like monthly calls with my patients where I do like over the phone assessments, see like what their needs are. Like a lot of these patients, they're elderly, widows, widowers that just a lot of times are perfectly fine. Sometimes they have a lot of problems going on, and sometimes, which I get a lot of, they just want someone to talk to.
Sure.
And with my job, it's like what I enjoy about it is it's encouraged to build those relationships with your patients. Like
Mm,
it's not just you walk in, give a med, and walk out. Like, you talk to them month to month and it's like, hey, how's your wife doing? How's your grandkids? I know you had this wedding coming up. How was that? How are you feeling? Like, so I enjoy that aspect of like really getting to know my patients, and I can hear it's to a point where like I can hear in their voice, okay, something is off. Like, oh, you sound out of breath. Like you
yeah.
sound different. What's going on with you? To kind of get that full picture of what's going on. And I really appreciated that.
Nice. I mean, it sounds like this is a profession that has taken advantage of the post-COVID world, where a lot of
Absolutely.
telehealth was a necessity, right?
Hmm.
But even when things started to open up more, we started to realize like, hey, a lot of this you could do virtually, and a lot of this maybe even is easier virtually, and not have to necessarily have brick and mortar everything. And yeah, I think that's been a great middle ground of realizing,
Absolutely.
hey, you can still provide care in different methods and still provide what is needed, and still do your thing from home. uh,
Absolutely.
so that's really cool. That's really cool. I think I remember you telling me too. uh, did you go your sorry, boyfriend, spouse, fiance? I'm trying to remember correctly.
We're working on that, but boyfriend.
Hey, if he listens to the episode,
Yeah,
dropping him.
absolutely.
All right. Well, I think, was it dental school that he was coming to Texas for?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
now
Okay.
he's about to start his third year.
Wow.
So we moved out here, and he actually decided in this whole process that he wanted to pursue oral surgery.
Oh,
So
okay.
from El Paso, Texas, now we're gonna find out where else he goes, ends up for residency, which will be another big move for us.
Yeah. So educate me, for oral surgery. Is this still just like a subsect of dentistry, or is that more like now in the medical?
It's a specialty of dentistry, but it requires him to go to medical school. So there's a
Oh,
you can
okay.
either, it's a 4-year program or a 6-year program. If you do a 4-year, then there's no like medical school aspect of it, and you don't finish with your MD. But he's an overachiever. He wants, the highest of what he can get.
Sure,
So he
sure.
wants to pursue getting his MD at the same time. So he'll go through medical school and the whole thing.
Wow. I mean, my brother and his partner, they are now professors in Rolla, Missouri,
Wow.
and they were like forever students basically. It's a
It's
long,
hard.
strained process, 100%. And I think there's an unsung hero many times, and in their case it was different because they were both students and both becoming professors, but
Yeah.
there's this unsung hero of the partner of the other individual who's like, I'm not a student anymore, I'm long done with my school, but life is very different when you are doing your 9 to 5 and you're not just focusing on passing tests constantly or studying, in his case, a ton, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, and I commend you both for taking that leap of faith. El
Yeah.
Paso, that's
Thank you.
how far is that from the Mexican border? Like an hour?
Oh no, on the highway, Mexico is on the right side of the highway. Like
Okay,
literally,
it's
I
right
could
there.
throw a rock into Mexico if I
Wow.
wanted to. Yeah.
I only knew of El Paso from UTEP. UCF used to be in the same conference with UTEP, the
Yeah, UTEP
university.
is about 10-15 minutes away from my apartment. So it's right on the highway. And if you're looking at UTEP, Mexico is right
It's
on the other
right
side.
there.
Yeah.
That's honestly a pretty incredible like opportunity, culturally speaking, to see a
Yes,
lot
it
of different
is.
things that I'm sure Orlando. I mean, we're a very multicultural area too, but it's
Absolutely.
different. It's quite different, obviously, being that
Yes.
close to a brand new country.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely forgot to cover this, and I meant to do this at the beginning, but we were so engaged in conversation. I normally have a segment that we start off at the start. No big deal. We're just doing it a little bit later. But I always like
Mhm.
to ask my guests, what's something that you learned today? So if you want to start, you're welcome to. I can also give my thing if you'd like me to start.
Go ahead and start. What did you
Okay.
learn today?
So my favorite animal. I knew quite a bit about my favorite animal. I actually have a tattoo of this animal on me. Is the octopus. Plural octopuses or octopusi apparently is both correct.
I thought it
Um,
was octopi. That's interesting. Go ahead.
yeah, there's no, sorry, octopuses or octopi. Both of those are
Okay,
correct.
okay.
I messed up the second one, but both are technically grammatically correct from what I understood. Um, Octopuses have a very smart, they're almost considered to be like alien-esque creatures. I knew that they had blue blood because of the magnesium in their blood versus the iron in our blood. I knew about the individual tentacles having neurons that act individually of each other. The part that was new to me, what I found out today, is that octopuses have 3 hearts. So the 3 separate hearts, fascinatingly enough, have to work in conjunction for their swimming and pumping, of course, to the blood through the gills. And apparently, when they are swimming, the hearts stop beating. So it has to, like, it prefers when it's in idle form to do like a slow crawl, just to regenerate everything and get the blood pumping again. So when you do see it, all tentacles swimming all at once, it's generating a lot of force, but it can't sustain that very long.
Wow.
So fascinating. I mean, when you look at any other animal, and there's fish anatomy is quite different, and I'm not even talking about like the mammalian fish or the mammalian creatures that live underwater like
Of
dolphins and
course.
whales. But when you look at any of these other animals, their anatomy is quite different. But this is like, again, alien esque compared to all other creatures, and it's so fascinating to me. And I always think of them as super intelligent. And who knows, maybe one day we'll get a chance to converse with them.
How cool would
But that
that
was
be? Would
my
you-
fun
Yeah.
fact. How about you?
So actually, like since we're on the same track as animals, I know you've probably seen this, but I was not aware of this until recently. Um the longest living tortoise right now is like almost 200 years old.
Oh, I saw something about that recently. Is it a
200 years.
Galapagos?
Yes.
Wow. Does it
That's
also have
like
like a life partner too?
that I'm not sure of. I'm going to have to look that up
I
afterwards,
think
but
I
that'd
remember
be
seeing
crazy.
something like that, but 200 years.
200 years is I can't even
It's interesting because where my mind goes with that is like, how familiar are you with CRISPR, the gene editing tool?
not very, but
Well, or have heard of it at least.
yeah.
I'm not here to teach a whole premise of microbiology and all that
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
stuff, but with the CRISPR potential, I do wonder how, like, if in our lifetimes or soon, we might be able to even find the trait in tortoises that allow them to live this long, and then if the possibility starts to surface of, can we just insert that gene in us?
That'd be
And then the
something so
question, of course,
interesting.
is, do people want this?
Yeah.
uh, I don't know how suitable or sustainable the planet is. I mean, clearly it's not very sustainable for normal lifespans that we have.
Absolutely.
But if we were to double that, triple that in some cases, that's a whole nother world of humanity. Like that's a whole nother look. Not to mention, if you really start to like think about it, if we let's say we live to 200, would
Right.
puberty then be like in your 30s, 40s, or 50s? Like, would everything slow
That's a
down from
good
the
point.
adapting perspective? Or do you still reach puberty in your teenage years and then you just hit adulthood for 100 plus
For
years?
longer. Yeah.
I would think, based on how other animals adapt through their stages of development, it would push everything. We
I
would
would
be a
think.
child for longer, we'd be a teenager for longer, and then eventually reach adulthood for longer. Fascinating, man.
That
That would be very
is.
interesting.
That's a rabbit hole that
I
just gonna
gotta
have to
reach out
go
to a
down.
sci-fi writer or something and be like,
Yeah,
I
be
got
like,
a book idea for us, and
exactly.
let's make this the next big show or something. Okay, very cool.
HBO
I like
Max,
that.
hit us up.
I mean, you're, royalties. Let's get something going on here.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, okay, very nice. So I'm glad you're able to a share something with me, but b that you shared a little bit more about your nursing experience and how that's been for you today. Um, how would you say? I mean, I think nurses and teachers are very similar in the sense of like kindred spirits and truly are considered to be essentials, no doubt about it. But unfortunately, I often categorize these positions as martyred jobs. And so often you're expected to essentially take the worst of the worst and just say, well, you're doing it for good cause and for good reason. And
Yep.
that's true, but it's unjust all the other garbage you have to deal with. What's been your personal experience so far?
Um, honestly, it's one of those things like you really have to rely on your coworkers a lot of the time because like who you work with, and I can speak more so on this when I was working in a hospital setting versus where I'm at now because I feel like what I do now I'm much more appreciated for like the work that I do. Whereas bedside, it's so different because you have like those people where it's like, violence towards healthcare workers is a real thing. Like
Yeah,
it's something that I don't think a lot of people realize is an issue until you don't know until you know. It's really one of those things and it's like that aside, it's also the trauma that you experience like within yourself. Like I know I have so many friends who throughout their years as nurses like they've had to seek therapy for like the things that they've dealt with and the things that they've seen throughout their career. And I think it's so important that like I'm one of those people that believes like you have to keep laughing about something or else you're just going to cry. And
yeah, totally.
that's something that I relied on heavily like with the situations that I dealt with in my time working at that hospital, and I built so many like the friendships that you build when you kind of share those traumas with people around you, like it's unbreakable. Like my bestest
Mhm.
friends now are people that I met during those times.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a those are great coping mechanisms as well
Yeah.
of hey, this really sucks, but you learn to figure out how can I get through it and see the next day.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you also realize that unlike other jobs, you know, in a very similar vein, unlike other jobs, you can't just say, okay, I'm just not going to see anyone today. I'm just going to close my doors or just be in my cubicle and do my job and ignore most people or interact through Slack or online or whatever.
Exactly.
You can't do that in nursing or
Mm-mm.
teaching. There's these people centric positions, and it's not just people centric. Obviously, teaching is so much about growth and mentorship, and it's not just education, but like trying to become a better person. And then,
Yeah.
of course, healthcare. This firsthand. It's not just the treating the problem, but it's also building enough trust that the person and the patient communicates with you accurately what is wrong.
Yeah.
If they don't even trust you, you're taking a shot in the
You're
dark.
getting nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it is a major challenge, no doubt about it. But it's cool that it's good that you found those chances or opportunities to um, get through it and
Absolutely.
try to be the best person you can be, in
Yeah.
those circumstances.
Absolutely.
Um, Now's a good chance for us to move on to our next major segment. We're on
Hmm.
good timing for this one, at least. This is one of my favorite questions I like to ask, and I ask all my guests this question. But I love to ask anyone I'm interviewing or talking with, what would you tell your past self? So imagine you had the opportunity to sit in front of Brianna from high school, Timber Creek, 16, 17-year-old version of you. What would you tell them?
God, I would give that girl a hug. I would just tell her like stop taking yourself so seriously. Like all of the pressure that, you put on yourself to try and be XYZ for everyone else, like stop caring so much about what everybody thinks about you and just kind of focus on yourself. And now knowing that, I'm so far away from family, I would just kind of tell my younger self to enjoy and, take those moments with everyone that I was close with, as cherish them as much as I can, because they don't last forever.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that version of you would have believed you or been open to your feedback?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
I was
I only
always
asked
very
that because,
receptive.
okay, good, good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
only asked that because I've experienced that, when we're in that time of life, when we're in high school, when we're teenagers, it's typically one of two things. You're either so confident in everything that you feel like life will go an exact path, and if it doesn't go that exact path, it becomes a nuclear situation, or you have no clue and you're waiting for someone to tell you what to do. So I feel like, I've had interviews with other students who will tell me like, oh no, my past self would have shrugged everything off and said you're full of shit. But I'm glad that you feel like you would have been receptive to that. Not to mention, what you're suggesting is more just support
Yeah.
and and acknowledgement of love more than anything else. Than like you need to drastically change this.
Yeah.
Um, so it's more of a gentle hug, like you said, instead of a massive push. So
Yeah, I feel like I always for the most part I want to say that I kind of had everything figured out, I kind of knew I always had a passion for healthcare, I had a passion for science. I always kind of knew where I would end up career-wise. And, I was, happy with who I was as a person, but I think that in that time I kind of lacked like a lot of confidence that I feel like I should have had. I lacked a lot of it was a lot of being a teenager. You
of
think, oh,
course,
everything is fun, I'm going to go and enjoy and do blah blah blah, but you don't realize that there's a time where a lot of things end. And there's a time where, like how I'm experiencing now, like being so far away from those that I love and care about so much, like you don't realize how much you miss all of the little things
yeah,
when they're not here anymore.
yeah, 100%. And you bring up the potential confidence stuff.
Yeah.
This question plays right into that. When you think back to high school, what's something you're proud of now that back then you didn't necessarily see?
I think that I've grown to be really happy with the person that I am. Like I'm really proud of who I am as a partner. I'm proud of who I am as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend. And I think back then I was just so consumed with everything that was going on. Like I was in a really, really toxic, unhealthy relationship back then that kind of consumed me, took away a lot of who I was. And I think now I've just had the ability to grow so much and kind of put myself in a position where I've had to be uncomfortable. I mean, comfortable being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I'm really proud of like who I turned out to be with all of that, and being away from like my support system and my place of comfort. I think I've kind of blossomed and been really proud of who I've become.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great to hear. I
Yeah.
think the relationship thing you mentioned is pretty important because it's not abnormal for high schoolers and teenagers to have relationships, obviously. But I always, whenever anyone brings up their relationship drama in class, the thing I always try to tell them is the odds of a high school relationship living past high school are so low, not because teenagers are not bound for love or anything. It's just often you don't even know yourself.
Right.
You're still figuring out who you want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
it's possible both people can find that discovery on their own and still be madly in love with each other. And that's
It's true.
great when that happens. But it's more often than not, you kind of realize, I don't like this. This isn't
Yeah.
who I want to be. I want to try new things, whatever. And, that's kind of the point of being a teenager in your young adult years anyway.
Yeah.
It's a time to make mistakes. It's a time to do stupid stuff every once in a while and just say, who cares? I'm
Absolutely.
learning. So it sounds like you had that opportunity to, like you said, blossom and
Yeah.
find who you wanted to be. And not everyone would be willing to take a risk, I think, of moving away from everyone you knew. Obviously, you're fortunate you had your partner with you, but
Yes.
everyone always says one is the loneliest number. Even if you just have one other person with you, you still kind of feel a little caged in from time to time when you used to
Yeah.
have family, when you used to have friends, when you used to have opportunities to, at a whim, say, I'm going to go do this. Not to
Yeah.
mention, you're also in El Paso, Texas.
Yes.
No offense to El Paso, but Orlando at least has a lot of things you can do any weekend.
Yes.
And yeah, you kind of have to adjust your life, but I think that develops you more and kind of
Yes.
shows you like, oh, I can be the party. I can be the thing that brings me a lot of joy and happiness, and it doesn't have to be just these materialistic things that sometimes we tend to focus on.
Yes. And you learn, especially out here, to kind of like find fun and find beauty in like little things. Like with here, I mean, it's straight desert. You look out, the mountains are
Mm.
all dust, and like everything. So, you find little things to do. Like there's a bunch of people that love to hike here. Like
Oh, I'm
you
sure. Are you a
I'm a big
hiker?
foodie. I have not gone yet, but there's a couple
Uh,
trails that I really want to try.
okay, okay.
I'm a big foodie, so like
Mm,
going out, finding different places, and I mean, of course, like the Mexican culture here is so rich. So
yeah,
you go
yeah.
and you find really authentic places here, and I mean that's a lot of fun for me, like going and
What's been your
trying
favorite
things.
dish you've had in El Paso,
Oh,
or favorite place? It doesn't have to be favorite dish. It could be favorite place. And you could describe it.
see, this is so bad because it's not even like authentic. So there's like a fusion place, and they mix like Mexican and Asian food.
Mm,
And the chef there, he used to work in a bunch of different restaurants throughout his life, and then he opened up that place, and he had a passion for like mixing those
sure.
cultures together. That was some of the best food that I've ever had here.
Very nice. See, okay, I had a conversation with Julia about this yesterday. We were talking about food and the ethics around food, which is a very interesting topic. I think as long as the chefs or the owners or the people who are running things still pay homage to where these things come from and recognize the origins of all these things, there's the nature of food and the nature of humanity is experimenting and
Oh
exploring.
yeah.
I think it's a bit different when something that just becomes a huge chain and it loses all personality and
Oh
culture and it
yeah.
just becomes a shell of itself. But
Yes.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with something like that where it's someone saying, hey, I was inspired by this. This is the food I ate growing up. This is the stuff I love. Let's blend it all together and make something beautiful.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And I
Mexican,
mean, he
Asian.
did the place. I mean, the place itself was beautiful. I mean, very intimate, like small location.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
you really get to know the staff. I mean, he came and greeted everybody that was in there because I mean, it's a pretty new place. So I mean,
Hmm.
it was just great environment and great food and just great vibes overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's a fun weekend look like in El Paso?
So it depends. During the summer, it's really really hot.
Yeah.
So as soon as it hits like, 12, the sun is blazing. What
Mm,
we really like to do is we've gotten really big into fitness. I mean, especially me. That's something that's been really, really important for me. So we'll kind of get up early in the morning, you'll find this really interesting actually.
okay.
So the local high schools around here are like open to the public. So whereas, like the schools in Orlando, they are
Or like
like
fenced off and
fenced
everything.
in. Yeah,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
like it's
Hmm.
trespassing if you enter them.
Yeah.
Whereas the schools here the doors are open. You can go use the track, use the courts, use everything and it's open to the public during summer, like non-school hours, weekends, everything,
Huh.
which is so different than in Orlando. So anyway, I say that to say we like to get up early on the weekends, go either run on the track, do
Nice.
stadiums, like all type of stuff, some type of exercise. And then there's really good brunch places around here.
Nice.
So get some nice brunch, food, drinks, and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hang out.
Enjoy company. I got you.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool you guys bonded through exercise. It sounds like something that you're really passionate about in fitness.
Yes,
I do love
absolutely.
the idea of like it builds more community where
Yeah.
these places that you regularly see aren't just for select few, and instead it's like, hey, I know the universities are typically like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think UCF's is going through construction, the stadium, but UF, for example, their stadium is typically open, and you see people constantly running stadiums through there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I like that because it becomes more part of your area, and it's not just these sectioned off, isolated locations where you're like, that would be kind of cool to like go there this time, or walk through there this time, or take a
Yeah,
run through here,
especially like
whatever.
tennis courts. There's not just random tennis courts around, and it's like, okay, we started asking around when we first got here because we were really big on that before we moved.
Yeah,
And they're like, oh, just go to the high school down the street. We're like, you could do that.
it's
What do you
open.
mean?
Yeah, that's
Like, are we
crazy.
gonna get
People would look
arrested?
at you here. Yeah, people would look at you here like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're kind of coming to a close here. I got some final questions I always love asking.
Yeah.
Um, how about this one? What's something you're actively working on today?
Definitely health. That's, like I said, that's been a really, really big thing for me. I think as my career has progressed, and definitely as my boyfriend is transitioning to that like medical school mindset, we've learned a lot
Hmm.
about just how easily things can go wrong. I've had a lot of problems happen with my family, like just like health things that could have easily been avoided had
Mm,
lifestyle been a little bit different.
sure.
So I've really become passionate about that. And just making small changes, like I cook from home most days. Like I actively try and get exercise in every day when I can, and just like little things to kind of prevent
Yeah. Which
preventable
is
issues
a
from
huge part
arising.
of medicine anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. And my final question, back when we were in school,
Mhm.
high school, college, whatever, growth was often decided or determined from a very binary sense as far as pass fail or A's, B's, or you're in class on time or you're tardy.
Right.
How do you evaluate growth today?
I think growth today is more of always kind of showing up for yourself and others and finding new ways to kind of better yourself, whether that be becoming a better person, giving out to the community, doing something for yourself, like always finding something to keep pushing towards, learning something new, maybe trying something new, maybe something that you've never done before, just continuing to not make yourself into a shell, like
Mm,
get out, be more open and receptive to new things. And yeah, I think
just overall
overall,
staying active and trying
yeah,
to continue to push yourself. And
yeah,
it also keeps you, your brain young. You don't
absolutely.
become this monotonous blob.
Yes. Not,
So Brianna, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say like not becoming a prisoner to routine type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truly, truly. So I want to really thank you for showing up. It's been an awesome opportunity chatting with you. Is there any final words you want to share?
No, I'm just excited for you. Honestly, I was really thrilled to see that you started doing this. I feel like this is so up your alley, and I'm really excited to see kind of what it turns into and hear who else
Thank
you
you
have the
so much.
opportunity of speaking with, because this is a
Listen,
really
if I
awesome community.
ever if I ever get to a point where I'm making anything off of this, or I'm like bringing in big names, I'll 100% be like, I know where I started.
Yeah. And I mean,
Well,
hopefully, it's a good
yeah,
idea,
I
and I
know, I
hope
know.
so.
But in the meantime, it's been a really fun hobby. It's
Yeah.
been a really cool opportunity and experience.
That's
But I want to
awesome.
thank you for being here and catching up with me today.
Of course.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who could use a reminder that growth isn't always linear. Follow us on Instagram at the Catching Up Podcast for clips every Friday, episodes every Wednesday. Thank you for listening to Catching Up, where conversations continue beyond the classroom. I'll see you next time.